initially, because I was really gonna say there's no question in my mind that every Jets fan alive was gonna require very, very severe therapy with the way we woke up and the news we woke up to, and I woke up to it literally. I mean, I'm in California, so imagine the time it was when you found out that that Fields, Justin Fields, was carted off the field, versus and now minus 3 hours. That was my life. The news, though, since that news came out, that initial announcement came out, the news that Justin Fields was carted off the field, the news got better and better with every update. And that's the good news. Hi, Leah Anjali. You'll have to explain that to me. That's my number one fan. You see that? Number one. I don't know why it's a little Sacramento Kings crown that pops up. I wonder if YouTube is paying royalties to the Sacramento Kings, because every time now in the chat they do these little number rankings, and they do it with a little Sacramento logo. At least to me, it feels like a Sacramento Kings logo. But you know, anyway, back to Justin Fields. So for those of you who don't know, I doubt anybody's going to watch this and not know. Justin Fields, second play of the second practice, drops back for a pass, and goes down and gets carted off, wheeled off in a cart. I'm just going to ignore that comment about a certain player that wasn't even on the draft board when we picked, because it doesn't make any sense to acknowledge it. We thought, obviously non-contact injury. They took his shoe off. I think that a lot of people felt, there's a very good chance he's laughing. There's a very good chance that he popped an Achilles, and that's our instinct, right? I mean, AVT and Aaron Rodgers and Jermaine Johnson and Carl Lawson. I mean, it's only natural that we would just say, nope, popped an Achilles. And then we waited in angst. We were stressed. And we can get a break, though, James. Listen, we were stressed. We were thinking, is it an Achilles? Is he out for the year? And Aaron Glenn comes up and says it's a toe injury. Now, that's not completely out of the woods. As Matthew Smith, who played football, will tell you, you need 10 toes. Nick Shine will tell you, you don't need 10 toes to live. I mean, he's alive, but you need 10 toes to play football, probably. Well, actually, I'm probably not even sure about that. You could probably play with 9 toes. You could probably play with 8 toes. But the news got even a little bit better when they said dislocated toe, right? My doppelganger, or the other Jeremy of the world, is saying that, dislocated toe. And yes, so the injury turned out to be a dislocated toe, which is great news. Like, obviously, we'd rather have him not be hurt at all, but, it's not the knee. We knew that, I think, when they took his shoe off. It's not the ankle. We thought ankle sprain. Ankle sprain could be half a season, right? Not the ankle, not the Achilles, not a sprain, not a break, no ankle. And then, not just is it a dislocated toe, it's not the big toe. And that has to be significant. You can't tell me. It's got to be worse to hurt your big toe, dislocate your big toe. That takes most of the weight, most of your balance, right? Like Nick, I could knock Nick over now. Like if Nick is not looking and I push him, he might fall down because he's massive. He lost 2 pounds of toe. I mean, I saw the results of that surgery. Trust me, he lost 2 pounds that day. It's the fastest way to lose 2 pounds. But it's a small toe. So I think that takes, the bunion of your foot, like under the big toe, that's where all the pressure is. There's a lot more weight that comes down on it. I kind of feel like one of the smaller toes could be taped to the other toe. They could, stick some cortisone in it or something, cortisone, just kind of numb it. But it's very hard to imagine that this is the kind of injury that will just, make it that he can't play or anything. Hey, Philip, me and Matt O'Leary will be back. We'll be back on Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern. So O'Leary and I will be back. We will either be, I'm not sure if we were approved to go back on Talking Jets so early because they didn't start the other shows yet. I'm not really 100% sure. I kind of, it might be on Matt O'Leary's channel, but I'm sure those of you who watch Talking Jets are also subscribed to Matt O'Leary's channel. So, but look for us at 3 p.m. on Friday. Matt O'Leary and I will be back doing our show this Friday, tomorrow. Actually, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. O'Leary and I will be back, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the little toe. Nick Shine, the toe expert, made a comment that that maybe we'll get lucky and it'll be the pinky toe. And I don't know if it's better if it's the pinky toe or the toe next to the pinky toe, because one of the inner toes could be taped to one of the surrounding toes, maybe. I arched up a little bit so it's not taking any pressure. Like, I don't know, I'm making this up. I just don't see how, if it's not even the big toe, like if a player got one of their little toes amputated, how long would they be out? A couple of weeks? I mean, and this is not even an amputation; it's a dislocation, right? He dislocated his toe. It probably hurts a lot, but structurally, does anything stop him from running? Like, these guys play in pain all the time. You don't think they could play it with some pain? Now, we don't want him to have lingering pain, right? I obviously spend the next 2 weeks, tape it up, cast it up, do whatever it is you can to make this toe feel better so he doesn't have to play in pain, let it heal. It's okay if he doesn't play for 2 weeks and he sits in the room and he's just watching film and he's learning the plays and, maybe stationary throwing. Obviously, he can play catch and throw. Just cast up the toe to make sure he's not putting any pressure on it. It's just so he could throw and keep his arm. He could still do arm drills. I don't know. I'm thinking in a couple of weeks he'll be back to practice. You know, um, I mean, unfortunately, we didn't get Cam Ward, who, like as Matthew Smith pointed out, is immune to toe injuries. He'll never be injured in his life because he's Superman. He's the magical quarterback. But that's not our quarterback. I think who drafted him? Tennessee. I think that you kind of have to become a Titans fan if you still want to root for Cam Ward. um, Good luck with that. But otherwise, I guess we're just if the worst thing that could happen to a Jet fan is that Cam Ward becomes the biggest superstar on the planet, because we're gonna have to hear Matthew Smith talk about it forever. Um, like so. uh, so there you go. But anyway, he might become a star. We don't know. If he doesn't become a star, we don't get nearly the same satisfaction as Matt will get. Matthew gets the satisfaction of laughing, reminding us forever that he loved Cam Ward. If Cam Ward doesn't work out, I'm sure it'll fizzle away and be forgotten about. And Matthew Smith will be off the hook. And he'll be talking about his favorite quarterback in 2026 that we should draft. Is being a Titan fan really that much better than being a Jet fan? Probably not. Um, or being a Jet fan better than being a Titan fan? Probably not. I think either way, you're talking about the same kind of misery. I mean, realistically, you're talking about probably not winning a championship. Um, but look, Justin Fields, I mean, we definitely got the best news that we can get, the best news that we could receive regarding his injury from when it first happened, right? Obviously, the best news would have been no news. There wouldn't have been an injury, right? There would have been a normal practice where we're hearing good things about good plays. But if you're going to hear about your quarterback being carted off the field in a non-contact injury, although we don't know it's completely non-contact because there's rumors that Michael Clemens is actually the player who stepped on his toe. But when you hear no real explanation, not Justin Fields was running and went into a heavy tackle and fell under a pile and came out, gimp. Like, it wasn't like that kind of thing. It wasn't he fell awkwardly as he was being sacked or tackled. It was nothing like that. So, like, immediately the concern is when, guy just when you hear non-contact, or you know he's standing up and suddenly he's just limping. He goes down to his knees, he gets back up, he's limping. Really scary stuff, because usually that just screams Achilles. We really dodged a bullet. There was a good, I would say, half an hour where we really believed. For me, it was half an hour, because I don't know. I'm in California, so I'm 3 hours behind. So we don't get the news 3 hours behind, but like we sleep. And I was actually driving to the office, so I didn't notice until I noticed. But true, the Titans did have a few good years, because they had Henry. Um, but anyway, for a half an hour, for me, it was a solid half an hour, if not 45 minutes. You know, that pain in my stomach. I mean, it wasn't the same thing as when A Rod went down, because I don't think the expectations for Justin Fields are as high. But you still have to, like, it's still your starting quarterback, right? We still got used to the idea that we're building this offense around Justin Fields. And then this thought that he might be out for the year, possibly. It was just such a Jets kind of, it's almost like half of what would have made it worse, like bad, is just the regurgitation, like, or bringing, or flashback, or, of the trauma that we all have experienced being Jet fans. Like, just the feeling of, here we are again. Like, this just keeps happening to us. People say, well, it's not happening to us, it's happening to the players. It's happening to us. We put a lot of our lives into this team. We put a lot of heart into this team, a lot of our time into this team. We want so badly to just win and have things go well and watch this team turn it around. And it's so unbelievably painful when that's taken from you. And I like Tyrod Taylor. And I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and claim there's this huge drop off. I don't know what the difference is between Tyrod Taylor and Fields in a given moment in a game. But I will say that Tyrod Taylor's never stayed healthy. I don't think he's ever played 3 full games in a row without an injury, right? Even as a backup, he came in for the Giants, got hurt. I mean, so Tyrod Taylor is not a reliable guy to start the season with. Like, this would have been disastrous for us. We were already talking about, and like, who is going to be the guy? Are we going to make a trade for Kirk Cousins? Are we going to, are we going to go for Wentz? Like, we're already naming names. Maybe the Giants don't need Winston anymore because they drafted, quarterback. Jart. So they have Dart and Russell Wilson. So maybe they'd be willing to part with Jameis Winston. Well, who's the other guy they got? They even got a guy. They're loaded with quarterbacks. They have 4 quarterbacks, so they can't even keep all of them. So, we were already at that point where we're like talking about, who we can get to fill in, and it just was a terrible feeling, just a really, really terrible feeling. Again, okay. Did you see me disappear? Like, my screen went black. I'm just wondering. Matthew, did I disappear for a second? Did, like, my screen just go black, or guys have no idea what I'm talking about? Like, I just wonder, because suddenly my screen went black and I don't know what happened. But so look, we dodged a bullet. It looks like Justin Fields will be ready to week 1. I'm fairly confident of it. It's a little bummer. Like, it might do some harm that he is going to miss practice for a while. This was a year to gel and do all those things. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's a perfect situation, but like, some people act like it's no big deal. I don't want him to be recovering for 6 weeks, and then the season starts and he just got back from his injury, and he didn't get to play in any game, in preseason games, and I don't think that's a good thing. And that would mean that we might be better off with Tyrod Taylor for a few weeks if that was the case. But if he's back on the field, then within a couple of weeks from now, then it's no big deal. I would like to see him play in preseason game. I know that's like a controversial thing. I think that maybe if he does great in green and white practice and green and white day, maybe they'll be fine and satisfied. I know that a lot of them can say you don't need to be on TV for the game. Now that they do the joint practices, the scrimmage is just as important and shows you just as much. So I'm not going to overanalyze that, but I was kind of hoping we get to see some Justin Fields in the preseason. Um, like who are we going to? There's no reason for Tyrod Taylor to play in the preseason. Uh, he might, but there's no reason for it. I mean, it might just be that Martinez kid, and who's that guy? Brady Cook. Did he come from Notre Dame? Brady Cook. Is that where he's from? Or am I thinking of somebody else? I don't know, but like preseason's so boring because of that nowadays. Nobody plays, not even for maybe a drive. Pure adrenaline. Sports is in the building. He stays quiet most times. He just lingers there, hidden in the back. But he felt compelled to tell me that he thought his phone stopped working. So my screen did just randomly go black for a bit. So I don't know what happened. But yeah, JE, I agree. The real thing is that we dodged a bullet. And really what it reminds us that during camp, as we get all upset about, oh, he dropped the pass, this one dropped the pass, this one didn't get a pressure. Really what especially when you're a Jet fan, what training camp is about is no injuries. Like that's what you're hoping for every day. Any day that there's no injuries is a good day in training camp. I don't care how they're playing on the field. I just don't want any injuries. I think it's good that we got this out of the way now. It's like, welcome to the Jets. This is what happens when you're a Jet. You're gonna get hurt. Bad things are gonna happen for you. You're gonna be a little bit cursed. But maybe that's the extent of his being cursed. Maybe it's just gonna be he has this little dislocated toe, and now he'll finish out his Jets contract with no injuries or no major issues. And this will be just the memory that we laugh at. Ha ha ha. Remember that day that we thought we had lost Justin Fields for the entire year. You know how many texts I got from people like that aren't even Jet fans, just in my life, like with hands covering their face. Sorry. Like everybody assumed he was out for the year instantly, because the news put it out as Justin Fields, put on carted off field. So when you hear about a football player being carted off field, most of the time, it's really, really bad. So, this is amazing that we actually, like how many times do we experience this as a Jet fan where we get the good side of it, like a dislocated small toe. I don't know how it could have been better news. He was carted off the field. We thought we had probably lost him for the year, and if it was an Achilles, never the same. Never. He's a guy who makes his living running with the football, a rushing quarterback. An Achilles is the worst kind of injury. That's a terrible injury. Because that could have taken away a step. Just a little step taken away from his game could have such a big impact on his overall quarterback play. Because he relies so heavily on his running threats. Even his passing game. The way they blitz him, the way they approach Justin Fields has got to be, his speed, his running ability has to be considered in that equation, right? Like you have to be very careful, seal the edges really careful. You actually have to hold back your defensive edges a little bit. You can't take the inside lane unless you have a guy to fill in. Like, it's like the defensive scheme actually has to consider and being designed around a quarterback like Justin Fields to not let him get around the end, right? So you really have to seal. And if he was to have Achilles and not be the same and lose a step of that speed, that takes a lot of pressure off opposing defenses. So I think bullet dodged. I really do. I think we dodged a bullet. And, again, it's not because I'm saying he's our great savior. But when your backup quarterback is Tyrod Taylor, who's never played a full season and gets pretty much hurt every year of his career, we're already going to be down our quarterback, even if you thought that Tyrod Taylor is as good. And, at least Justin Fields gives us this hope. He's 25, turning 26, right? He's played in a terrible situation in Chicago. He was in a terrible situation, terrible coaching. It's been terrible for quarterbacks there for 20 years, right? For maybe even longer. So he's a terrible situation there. You know, he goes to Pittsburgh and has a winning record. He was restricted in what he could do, and that's concerning. Like the fact that they didn't trust him, and he was not allowed to throw the center of the field, and he had a very limited route tree. If you watch those Pittsburgh games, very concerning. But hey, he did what they asked him to do, and they won when he was, playing. And they didn't really give him the opportunity to put up big numbers or to do anything that was going to blow you away except win. So I'm not super high on him, and I'm not sitting there saying we found our franchise quarterback, but I'm also not ruling it out that he might not be not be the guy. Like he might actually be for their system. He might work and allow us to focus on other players. I don't know for sure that he isn't, but I do know that the worst case scenario would have been for him to be injured, right? And then for us to be Tyrod Taylor's our number one quarterback and A. Martinez is number two. That would not have been a good situation. But I don't know what Gorilla's talking about. I'm not pretending to be enthusiastic. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are some Jets fans who love Justin Fields and they're enthusiastic about him. I think he had enough time in this league to legitimately say, show it to me, prove it, show it on the field. Like talk is cheap. Like it's been 4 years, right? If he was, there's nothing that's going to make me say that a quarterback with his numbers and what we've seen on the field from him, like you're not going to convince me that Justin Fields is, someone we should be super excited about and doing cartwheels about and saying he's going to be a star. But I also won't rule out that he could come back and be a good quarterback. Like I'm not going to rule it out. It's happened. Guys have been worse and then had good careers, right? We're allowed to talk about his situation. We're allowed to say he was on the Chicago Bears. If you look at how many coaches he went through, how many offensive coordinators, there was a few games where he really looked like a good football player. There really was. There was some games where I was saying, "Holy cow!" Like people, because I was always kind of suspect on him. I wasn't the biggest Justin Fields guy, but I said, I remember stories coming out like, "Oh, this guy's a really good football player." Like 3 games came out, and people that didn't like him were changing their tune, and then he kind of sunk back down again, right? And if you watch his games, and if you really watch not highlights or one thing or the other, but actually watch the games and watch him play and follow him, inconsistent is the word I would use. There are moments where he looks phenomenal, right? We all know about his legs. We all know about the running. We all know that he could do design running plays, that he's super dangerous when he scrambles. No question there. But I think a lot of us know, if we've been watching long enough, that that's not enough. Because football, especially if you want to become a contender and you're playing in the playoffs, you're going to be in games where it's the fourth quarter and you're doing a 2-minute drill. There are going to be games where big games where you need to come back at the end. And you can't rely on running to do that. You're going to need somebody who can run the 2-minute drill. And, you can't just take that away and, from a quarterback's game and say that it doesn't matter. Like, it matters. So Fields has to prove his worth there. He has to grow in that department. He has to, for him to be the guy. Like, he has to just show that he could be at least the level of a passer that Jalen Hurts is, right? And remember, Jalen Hurts is surrounded by probably the best roster in football. So, like, to win the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, yeah, he's good enough to win the Super Bowl, but he needed the best roster. I mean, or I can't say he needed factually because that's not, there's no evidence of that he absolutely needs it, but he had it. Right, he had a very special roster, the best running game you could ever ask for as a quarterback. Great receivers, a great defense, right? Just he had a lot going for him. So it's either we do that for Justin Fields, the way he plays, we'd have to have the perfect roster, top three defense in the league, top five at least, and the most amazing offensive line where, our running backs are running 5, 6 yards every play consistently, and we could just, own the football. Like we'd have to play a different brand of football if we're being realistic. But the reality is if he doesn't develop and get much better as a passing quarterback, um, he's not going to be the guy. We're going to end up drafting a guy in 2026, and that's what's going to work out. And I think that's what I think they're prepared for that. I think I think they're prepared for the reality that they're going to have to draft a quarterback next year, but they also have a glimmer of hope. I think they're holding on to some hope that he's going to work in the system and develop and take a step up and maybe be the guy. I don't know. Mr. Gorilla Salad, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. He says, I can't highlight it because I'm on my phone, but I'm going to read it. Thank you for the super chat. He says, everything is going to be fine. Season isn't going to hinge on Fields anyway. An injury to the quarterback is the absolution this coach will need in year one. Yeah, I just kind of feel like I agree with the idea, and I support the concept, especially for there are people who are not the biggest Justin Fields fans or don't think much of him. Like, I agree that this year we weren't going to win a Super Bowl anyway, so I agree with that. We're not a championship contender, so it's not like, oh my God, there goes our chance for a Super Bowl, right? Also, one could argue that the drop off from Justin Fields to Travis to Tyrod when he's healthy is not that tremendous a drop off, right? In that mission, and that we still have things that develop, things to look at as a team this year, other than Justin Fields. Given we're not a contender, but we're looking for signs that Aaron Glenn's going to turn the culture around, and the team is going to play better, and these young guys are going to start stepping up, and we see the beginning of something special. And Justin Fields could have been hurt the whole year, and all that could have still happened. But I still don't want to give up and lose that little possibility, that little chance that he's gonna be the guy. And if he was hurt with a torn Achilles, that dream may have been over. Like any hope that Justin could have been the guy may have been dead if it was a torn Achilles, right? Because he never would have been the same running. He never would have been able to maybe run the same potentially. That would have changed his whole game. And missing a whole year is not good. And, and we would have had to draft a guy because now we had no sample of him. Does he work in the system? So how do you pass on a quarterback in that situation, right? If Justin was out for the whole year, you have to draft a quarterback in 26, right? I mean, now you can't go another year gambling that he's going to have this magically evolve into a great quarterback, right? Like, this is the year to test it. This is the year to see if 90% of the narrative is wrong, and that Justin Fields really had it in him and he never was given the right opportunity, or he just needed the time. Like, this is the year to find that out. If there's any chance of it being a reality. Tigo would say there's no chance, right? He'd say there's no chance of it being a reality. I think even some of the biggest critics of Justin Fields would agree 1%. There's some chance because we saw Geno Smith do it. We've seen Jim Plunkett did it. Won a Super Bowl. Doug Williams, the most unlikely MVP quarterback in history in a Super Bowl. Doug Williams came out of nowhere for Washington. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl with freaking Baltimore. I mean, this might be the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. Right? So weird things happen. So we don't know anything for sure. We just have our opinions. So I just want the opportunity to see. Right? Like, I'm not going to sit there and say Justin's going to be the guy, it's going to work out. I'm not going to sit there and say definitively he's just a bridge quarterback, he'll be gone in a year or two. Like, I'm not going to say either one. But I will say, as a Jet fan, I want to at least see him get the chance. Like, I want that door to be opened to see if he's the guy. And if he's not, he's not. But I just want to see it. Because if that little spark happened, if we got a little of that magic, and he turned his career around and was the guy, do you know how much that helps us as an organization? to not have to use a draft pick, a first round pick on a quarterback, and then even not even know if that quarterback that we pick is the guy, right? Like draft the first round quarterback and then have to wait 2 years before we really know because he's always learning. He might get better. Like imagine having to go through that cycle again. That's what we're looking at. That's the most realistic thing. Realistically, that's what we're probably looking at. We're probably looking at a 2026 drafting a quarterback and having to go through that whole process. The only thing that could rescue us from that, aside a trade, which is hard to foresee, is that Justin Fields magically just needed the right system, is needed a little bit more experience. He's at the right age, and it's just right at that right moment where he's ready to take that next step. And in the right situation, turns out that he could be a real quarterback. That's the only thing that could save us from this going through the whole draft process, which is just agonizing and painful to me. The thought of having to go through this whole process again, of drafting a guy and hoping it's the right guy, because it hasn't worked for us. It never works. We never get the right guy. And I don't want to hear anything about this guy or that guy. He's guaranteed. There is no guarantee. I heard that when we took Sanchez. Oh, my God, we got our guy. I heard that when we took freaking Darnold, and then he turns out to be good. But, of course, it's after long gone from the Jets. I mean, like, I'm so tired of it. It's like I understand that we're going to have to do it. If Fields is not the guy, then we have to draft the guy. I get it. I know how it works. But it sucks. I'm so tired of it. I just want a quarterback. I just want to know that we have a quarterback. And not for 1 or 2 years. Like the Rodgers thing always had a grain of salt. It always had that grain of salt, no matter how you sliced it, that he was already so old. I'm talking about a young quarterback. Like, you know how we have team control over... Sauce and Garrett Wilson now for 6 years. Right? Whether you like the contract or not. The point is we have those guys for 6 years. Imagine having a quarterback that most of us like, because this fan base never completely agrees on anything. But imagine having the quarterback. And we have him under contract for 6 years. Like, we know for 6 years we have a quarterback who's potentially could win championships. Like, we've never had that. We've had it for 1 year at a time. We've had little spurts, right? Vinny Testaverde, for a couple of years, there was that spurt where we actually believed, right? And then he got hurt, and then it was never the same, and it was not enough. And Chad Pennington, rotator cuff, right? Looked for a second like he was the guy. Like, this could be the guy. Shoulder injury, never the same. Same thing with Ken O'Brien. First few years, 83, 84, 85 with Ken O'Brien, those first 3 or 4 years, man, we had a quarterback. We did. We had a quarterback. It looked like if he kept getting better, a little notch better, he would have been a 4,000-plus guy, 30-plus touchdowns. He was so close to being that. Like, that's what we were watching happen with Ken O'Brien. Then he tears his rotator cuff. I think it was in 86 or 87. Never the same. Did Hulk Hogan die? Oh my God, is that true? Did Hulk Hogan die? Oh my God. Holy cow, if that's true. Oh my God. That is devastating. Boogie down. Oh my God. Holy cow. First Ozzy and now Hulk Hogan. Dude, I was the biggest Hulk Hogan fan. That was like my hero as a kid. I loved him. Oh, that is terrible. That just bums me out, man. I know it was controversial the last bunch of years of his life, and there were things in the news, and there were people who turned on whatever. But this is talking from when I was a teenager, man. I loved him. Like, loved him. He was my hero when I was a kid. Like, I was like a total sucker fan. Like, I liked the faces. I didn't like the heels. I was like the old school fan who bought into the whole thing. The magic of Hulkamania. That is just devastating news. He was like, I can't tell you how much joy he brought me. How many pay-per-views that I watched and went nuts when he won. and just was so just into the energy. My God, that is just devastating. I didn't see that coming at all. He always seems so healthy. Whenever they interview him, he seems fine. I mean, I know he probably did things that were terrible to his body, but man, it wasn't like he was sick. I didn't know he was sick or anything. Like, he's always in documentaries. He always looks fine. Oh my God. That is just terrible. 71 years old. That's young, in my opinion, for now, for nowadays, for today's medicine. I mean, I guess one could argue the way they live their lives, it's not young, you know, when you do certain things to your body. But heart attack, yeah. I mean, the guy probably took a lot of steroids in his life. But my God, that is just, wow. I'm like blown away. That just took me so off guard. First Ozzy and now Hulk Hogan. Jesus. Man, he had such an energy. You know how many times I imitated him? Well, you know something, Vince. I've done so many Hulk Hogan imitations in my life. I've done this. I've done that. When I played two-hand touch football and scored a touchdown, that was my celebration in the end zone. I would do this, and I would do it in every direction. That was literally how I celebrated when I scored a touchdown. Man, R.I.P., rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Jeez, thanks for the years of entertainment. Whatever people think about you, man, nothing will change the fact that when I was a kid, he entertained me. He had an impact. Like, I had real joy from his performances. Yeah, I know, Harlan. A lot of wrestlers died a lot sooner than him, but he was very rich. Probably had the best doctors and probably got off, the steroids. And there's also what kind of steroids and, that you take and how it's administered. And it's a whole complicated thing, like there's steroids irresponsible where you know nothing about them. There's levels of danger and how bad it is and how, dangerous they are based on the people that provide them to you and the way that you take them. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's, based on the way he lived his life, there was very controversial, and I know there's a lot of people that'll say that. There's not a lot of nice things you could say about him. About the person, I get it. I didn't know him personally, and he probably did a lot of crappy things in his life. And that might be true, but it doesn't take away from the fact that, the 15-year-old version of myself just loved him. I mean, loved him. I mean, from 15 to 18, 19, my teenage years. You might say, oh, that's only 3 or 4 years, but those 3 or 4 years are like the equivalent of 15 years of adult life. You know what I mean? 15 to 18, like my high school years. I guess 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade was just loving this guy. Like one of the people that I just love watching. His character, right? He played a character. I love that character. That character was hope. It made you feel good, made you feel patriotic. Song, dun 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 dun. Dun. When you feel going down and it's groove inside, dun dun dun. Start singing that. Danger Zone is covering his ears. Dane is like, I didn't turn on my YouTube to hear Jeremy sing. That's terrible news, but thanks for letting me know. I got a meeting in 2 minutes, guys. Got my supervision. I'm in my office. Check it out. This is my office. Pretty awesome, right? That's the couch where the clients sit. I sit right there in my special chair. Dane, you're welcome to have a seat if you want to talk about it. But yeah, that's my... Yeah, you're much younger than me if you were NWO Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I wasn't too happy about that, being a 1980s Hulk Hogan guy. But anyway, I've got to run. Take care, man, you guys. Are you glad I was able to interrupt my workday with this chat? Mr. Grill Sal, thanks for the super chat before. Thanks for being here. Everybody who was here, thanks a lot. And Take care. My Holy King, man, running wild all over the place. Take care, everyone. I don't know how to end this. How do you end a show?